aspect of it. Another theme that you see frequently in Lion is the theme of belonging, which is what I titled my slides on, and also, especially since it starts off with him being a 7-year-old kid in India, which is such a big place, which is actually kind of the opposite of Australia in a way, because Australia is not as big nearly by landmass and by the amount of people in there. But yeah, those are kind of the other similarities and differences. I could go on and on about Lion and all of the themes that it has, especially in relation to Australian films. But bringing it back to Gallipoli, or very central film, I think, in the whole scene of Australia. It actually kind of correlates, since it's the Anzacs and the New Zealand is involved as well, and they're kind of, there's a brotherhood in that, which is funny, or mateship, and I think that a lot of the ideas kind of that we see in Australian films carry over in New Zealand films, and vice versa. And one example would be Heavenly Creatures, which has a lot of, the idea of it being a young country, and therefore also a very immature country that, they never see. It's very innocent, and the content of that movie is kind of surprising. Seeing a murder, especially from young kids. There's Forgotten Silver as well, which actually, when you think about early films, the idea, although it may be entirely satirical, it's saying something about the early days of films in Australia and New Zealand, because it wasn't as big then, and it kind of counters the idea, it has these gems that are hidden, kind of in plain sight that people just kind of look over. I would also like to mention that, apparently the U.S. didn't start off as a big part of the initial cinematic movement, and it took them a little bit, apparently. But yeah, I think in my conclusion, I'd say that, or anything to conclude, that the importance of an Australian film really comes down to the idea that you see a lot of the more normal films at the end of, the 20th century, and the turn of the 21st century, turn to the 21st century, and you see a lot more of these contemporary films that, kind of these contemporary films that are trying to show this very poetic idea of Australia and the citizens. And it's funny to think that, the original films of Australia and New Zealand are instead very, just kind of normal news clips and, you know, everyday lives of people, especially, you know, when you think about Forgotten Silver. The first part is kind of just normal, with um, Stan the Man. It's very, it feels very, I don't know, it feels very two guys, just filming random everyday occurrences, which is what it is. And that's what I have to say about it. Feels like such a, I guess, civilian film. And, I think that's really important, and I think that's really a staple of, what film was originally, at least, and what film should be.